Hello, everybody. Here at Cohler Classical, we always like to say everything you need to do is just one click away. But actually, it's a lot better than that. We're going to show you today about the menus in Cohler Classical. Everything is designed to be as easy to access as possible and to allow for the fastest possible learning curve. And there's no other application in the world for doing this type of work that does this. Let's take a look at the menus first of all. We've divided the menus by their function. So you have File, Edit, View, Markers, Play, Record, Track, Options, Navigation, and Automation. And we'll also talk about the Help menu a little bit. All you have to do is ask yourself, what am I trying to do? If you're trying to do something with a file, loading a file, saving a file, creating a file, rendering a file, it's in the File menu. If it has something to do with editing, it's in the Edit menu. If it has to do with changing the view, i.e. what you're seeing on the screen, it's going to be in the View menu. Markers there, play or record there, etc. So track, options, navigation. So let's quickly go through these and see what I'm talking about. Each menu is a rather shallow menu, shallow meaning not very long. And the most important things are right at the top. So 99% of the time, what you need to do is going to be right at the top of the menu you go to. What's the most common thing you need to do with a marker? Set it. So there it is, markers set. Then depending on which type of marker you're setting, it's there. Now, before I get into the details of the menus, I'm going to explain another feature we have, which is our set of pop-up menus, because it provides a whole intermediate level of fast learning and usability. The most popular submenus all have their own keystroke that will allow you to pop them up as a pop-up menu. And if you go to the View menu under Pop-up menus, it shows you the list of all the pop-up menus. So that's the menu of menus. And that menu itself may be popped up by typing Option 1, or on Windows, that's Alt 1. So if I type Alt 1, it gives me that menu we were just looking at. Now, these are all very easy to remember because they are largely mnemonic. If I want to know about moving the cursor around, that's Option C for cursor. If I'm in a recording session, Option R is going to have all the recording functions. If I want to do some editing, Option E is going to have the editing functions, and so on. Some of them are numerically done, but many are mnemonic. Open a template is Option O. Open recent files is Command Option O, etc. So very easy to remember, all mnemonic, and if you forget them, you just type Option 1 wherever you are, and that brings up the menu of menus. So in addition to keystrokes, which is what gets you everywhere in one click, you can get to submenus via pop-ups in one click, which then can be used to get you to where you want to go in one more click. So now let's look at the menus individually. Under File, we have the new Open, Save, Close, standard stuff. Apply Template to Projects, Restore Backup. Then you have Media Loading, Media Deleting, and Media Creating. So all your basic stuff, pretty simple. Under Edit, there's the editing functions. All in one menu, can be popped up with Option E. All the pop-up menus, the first entry in the pop-up menu is the command that pops it up. So if you look at it in the menus, you see it says Editing, and then over here it says Editing Option E. So if I do Option E, that pops up the editing menu. So the menus are self-teaching. As you access them, they tell you how to access them. So it becomes a rapid learning process. All the crossfade commands are here. Then under the Edit menu, you have Settings and Preferences. First of all, Cohler Classical settings. then the basic REAPER settings, configuration, search history, all the standard things that are under an edit menu in all applications. The view menu has all your commands for zooming. That's the first thing you want to do. You want to zoom vertically, horizontally, waveforms, cursor, etc. It's all there. Plus it has the pop-up menus and Windows dockers and window display, other commands like that for view. Markers, again, first thing is set. If you're setting an in-out marker, it's there. Track group, project marker, time selection, all the different types of markers. And if you want to edit those markers, there's a couple of commands. Delete the markers there, nudge or move them, save or load them. All in the markers menu. Play record, first thing you're going to want to look at is playback. And so there's the playback menu. That's a pop-up menu. Easy to remember because the command is option space, and the most commonly used playback command is space. First thing in the menu once again. But if I forget the playback command that I want to use, I type option space and there's my menu. If I want to get to the speed, that's the second menu. That also has a pop-up, option command space. But those are easy to remember keystrokes for normal, half quarter, and preserve pitch. And then the recording menu, option R, gets you all the recording functions you're going to need during a recording session. The track menu, also very simple. The set of commands for inserting a track. This is when you're creating a new project from scratch, not using a template. Those are all the commands you're going to need. Once you've created a track, here are the things you can do to selected tracks: delete, volume, pan, mute, solo, and last touch track. And you can also save and use track templates. The commands below here are native REAPER commands that are rarely, if ever, used or needed. But occasionally you might need something in here like changing the display of a track or something. Under options, you have the Cohler classical settings first. And down below at the bottom you have the REAPER settings here. You generally don't need to go into these REAPER settings. That's why they're at the bottom. Timecode window, take number window, setting or using defaults. Project setup, that's an important pop-up menu. Whenever you're starting a new project, you're going to need to do this unless you're using a template. Create the tracks, move the tracks around, set the layout, create the source groups, set the pans, and you're ready to go. So that menu, and that's in the order that you need to do it. So that sub-menu, option 8, is what you need to do whenever you're creating a new project. Very simple. So that's all the options stuff. Under navigation, it's divided up by how you're navigating. Navigating means moving around on the screen. You can move between track groups. That's this first section, next, previous, destination, source. Move between individual tracks. So that's commands for moving between tracks, just the media tracks, just the folder tracks, or just the envelopes. This is for scrolling the view, right, left, up, and down. Moving the cursor has its own pop-up submenu. So moving to a time code, to the mouse, to a marker, to an edit, to a crossfade, time selection, envelope point, or by pixel left and right. Then moving back and forth to fades, selecting, unselecting items, showing and hiding tracks, and moving between tabs and windows. So all the navigation functions are right there, and then all the automation functions you'll ever need. This whole menu can be popped up. Option 4 pops the menu up. It's divided by what you're doing, either to selected tracks, to the last touch track, to the last touched FX parameter, etc. And those are all the commands you'll ever need for the most complex classical music editing, recording, mixing project. So that's it. Those are the menus. You've got the pop-up menus. You have the keystrokes, of course, which are all designed for maximum intuitivity, so that once you've learned one keystroke, you generally have learned 10 because they're all the same thing. There are a few other ways you can find your commands and things in the menus. One is you can go to the File menu and print out the menus. That prints the current menus completely into a web page. which you can then search menu by menu if you want, click it to open, etc. Or you can just say open all, and that gives you about an 18-page listing of all the menu commands in Cohler Classical, which you can then search with a normal Command F search. So if I want to look for commands associated with DDP, I can do Command F, type DDP, and that's going to bring me to all the commands that have the letters DDP in it right there. Another way to do that on the Mac inside REAPER itself is you can go to the Help menu and then just type DDP. And now you see it has all the commands that are in the menus, and it actually shows them to you as you mouse over them. Unfortunately, this functionality doesn't exist on Windows because this is a Mac OS capability. But it's a nice way of finding things in the menus. And finally, you can always go to the action list itself. Click on the action list icon here. And then type in the filter box. If I type DDP, there's all the commands associated with DDP. If you want to see all the Cohler system commands, you just type Cohler. And all of these hundreds and hundreds of commands are part of Cohler Classical. Also, all the native REAPER functions are in there as well. But I always strongly encourage people to avoid native REAPER functions unless you know exactly what you're doing, because native REAPER doesn't understand the track grouping technology that we've invented here with Cohler Classical. In Cohler Classical, everything you need to do is just one click away.